Big hello to everyone. I'm Raman Singh Saluja, part of the Della Leaders Club Indore chapter, Supply Chain Management Committee. I'm the founder of Gramco Infratech, an agri value chain company working on technology and infrastructure solutions for the farming community. In other roles, I serve as Vice President of the MPCA. I'm the founder curator of the World Economic Forum's Global Shapers Community Indore Hub. And recently, I was given the honor of joining MP Flying Club as a director and working in setting up the Drone Academy for training young professionals for the drone industry. Welcome to my DLC talk. Entrepreneurship is something which was very close to be somehow ingrained in, you can say, my DNA. I do belong to an industrial family. I've seen my father being an entrepreneur and an industrialist. I've observed the highs and lows. And somehow it was a natural calling for me to do something on my own. I did my schooling from Indore at Delhi College, pursued my college in Chandigarh at DAV College, Chandigarh. But somehow along the way, entrepreneurship had more of my heart. During this journey, I still remember the first venture which I really did initiate on my own was actually a renewable energy project. We used to have a steel plant in Pithampur and there were wind turbines along the way. And the drive was taking too long. And I told my driver to go towards where the turbines were installed. And the site manager was kind enough to permit me to climb up the turbines. And he explained to me how they were generating power and feeding it to the grid. Because at times we used to travel and the turbines weren't moving while there was wind. And that's when he told me that you need power from the grid to draw and then generate power and feed it back in. So somehow that industry really intrigued me. No raw material cost, wind is free, the only cost was capital. So somehow I was really drawn to it. And my first venture I started was in 1995. So I started working on a 3 megawatt wind farm. The government of our state came out with a policy. And I moved along slowly. It took me 3 years to get my project approved, get all the approvals in place. So I was succeeding part of the way, but 95, 98 was a difficult time for business. There was a recession. Our family business was also hit. And for a venture like that, what really was required was to be able to have a very credible power purchase agreement, which I could not do. So that's where I failed and could not really execute the project. The plant was shut down because it wasn't viable to operate at that time. Fortunately, along the same time, my father was working along with some of his friends and partners to set up a steel plant in Sri Lanka. And Sri Lanka, since we had a leg in, so I thought of exploring what can be done in that country. And during one of our visits, we actually realized that potatoes are very expensive there. And we did a back-of-hand calculation and thought maybe we can start with this and start exporting potatoes from Indore to Colombo. We get the order, we load the containers, we ship the containers. When they land in Colombo, we realized that the potatoes have started growing. That's when I understood what supply chain and what timing and how important it is to be able to manage your shipments properly. Eventually, we fine-tuned it to the point that we worked from the shutout time of the vessel to make sure that our containers reached only 8 to 10 hours before. We would transport it about 10, 11 hours before from Indore so that there's no time wastage. And we would actually load the potatoes from the farm or the cold storage maybe 3, 4, 5 hours before that time. So the entire transit time, we'd reduce it to 3, 11, and 8, 10 hours to make sure that the ships reached the port of Colombo in about 5 days' time. We started doing that business. And along that journey, I was also interacting with the farmers and got talking to them, got speaking to them to understand what is it that they do and how they do it and what the pain points are. The biggest challenge is that farmers grow multiple commodities. So there's a different challenge for every commodity. So we tried to think as to why and how we can improve this. And this was way back in 2000 I'm talking about. We got talking and I conceived the idea of an e-commerce platform at that time called grammandi.com. Gram means village, mandi is market of sorts. It was like a village market, but more towards B2B, where everything could be offered to the farmers holistically under one roof through the e-commerce channel. We were offering them everything: news, plant rates, farming practices, market intelligence as to what the plant rates are, where to sell, which market is selling at what price. So that's one thing which made me realize that if you have to be in agriculture, one commodity is not the way. And way back in 2000, the internet penetration was non-existent. The financial inclusion, banking infrastructure was really poor. Internet, banking, was just not falling in place, which made us think as to either what we're doing is something terribly wrong, or we are ahead of time, or maybe we're just stupid. So we actually wound up that operation in 2001, 2002. Around 2007-8, the net penetration was improving, the banking infrastructure was improving, financial inclusion was being talked of. That's when I started drawing up plans for Gramco. And from day one, what I realized is India is a very complex country. Cultures, small land holdings, multiple crops, multiple geographies, different ways of buying and selling. There were too many moving parts. But the commonality of everything was that there was no infrastructure close to farmers. Farmers had no access to quality seeds, no quality inputs. And I came to a solution that, in my mind, what a farmer really needs is something which is similar to a multi-speciality hospital. You have any problem, you go there, you meet the kind of doctor you have to meet, and he can offer you all solutions. Second thing was, if I am a farmer, am I incentivized? Am I motivated? Am I driven to use something which a company like Gramco wants to offer, which is infrastructure close to my fields, storage facilities, access to finance against commodity stored, opportunity to add value through cleaning, grading, processing. And being a literate person, it made a lot of sense to me. The farming community and rural population, by and large, is not educated, but they're very, very smart. They see value, they notice value, and they go for value and services when they see one. My journey began with a hunch, really into the unknown, because I wasn't sure as to how it'll really work in the real world. Theoretically, things are different. In practicality, things are very different. And the idea is that farmer is your customer, and he's not just my customer. What he's selling to me and what products I'm providing to him is the livelihood on which he runs his family. For us, it is a business. We are not an NGO, we are a commercial company. Profit is obviously at the center of our thought process and venture. Because there are no free rides, there's no free money that I get, I cannot get free for the services. So you have to be able to monetize. But what we wanted was to be able to be responsible to the farming community so that along the way we are able to help them cut costs, make more money, ensure that their economic value increases when they are associated as a part of the Gramco family. We were a startup way back in 2013-14, we got funding. We did expand from 2 to 7 facilities. We work with about 20-odd thousand farmers, covering almost approximately 200 villages. So there has been enough of experience that we had. But at the same time, we also had issues that we faced and battles that we fought along the way. So our journey, I would say, has been like where I stand today in 2022. So I've literally been to hell and back. Farmers in our geography are growing multiple crops: soya, wheat, chickpea, chilies, cotton, potatoes, garlic, coriander, you name it. So it really is one of the most diverse belts. We've had our challenges and some very, very difficult challenges, which we were fortunate enough to overcome and reach and survive to date. The agri scenario over the last 3-4 years has become more active. You have talks of more Agritech companies coming. There are lots of, technology solutions. Now the challenge is, if you look at the entire agri sector, it is not just about social or financial or, policy challenges. It's a multiple of everything put together. We as a startup, we were successful in raising a pre-series A fund round. We leveraged some bank loans. We set up the other facilities we had to do. And the incremental fund which we were expecting would come from the banks for working capital, that never came through. There's a strong tendency to follow revenue growth without any consideration of ground realities in terms of what the contribution is, what the company is really doing. We struggled. We were fortunate enough, we got support of friends and family to live another day, overcome most of our troubles while we are not out of the woods yet, but close to it. Now, if you look at the entire sector as such, the entire farming and agri pipeline, it starts as early as farm preparation, soil testing, what seed to grow, planning for inputs. Finally, you come to the operative part, which is real farming, where you have farm mechanization, pest control, various things coming into place. Then you have harvesting, post-harvest management, storage, adding value, market linkages, blah blah blah. So it's like a life cycle. Crop insurance, I think, is one of the areas which is something which we are very closely looking at it. In fact, at one of the events we participated, which was organized by the Global Index Facility of the World Bank, we presented our solution document, and we were one of the only companies who was at an ideation stage at that time for that particular activity. And we were recognized as one of the top global innovators from amongst 130, 135 companies. Now imagine if you're doing a business where that is the kind of risk. And the solution to that, while we have various insurance schemes which have been announced, there are cases where farmers haven't got insurance for 2 years, 2.5 years, 3 years. That's when they run to money lenders, because they have to make sure that the next crop is in the ground. He has to pay a fee for his child's education. There could be other obligations. That's when he gets into a debt trap. Look at the other side of it. We had the Russia war, commodity price inflation has kicked in. Wheat prices go above a certain price. Obviously, there's a shortage in the global market. The prices are up domestically. We get an export opportunity, which in a way translates to farmers getting more money. Food security is an issue, fair enough. But exports are banned, prices come down. Who suffers? Farmers. Same farmer today who's grown onions and tomatoes, he's selling his onions at 2-3 rupees a kg. Who's supporting him to get a fair price? We can't create a war to make sure the price of onion goes up. So who's supporting the poor farmer? Ultimately, it's market and it's the government policies. And unfortunately, even if you do everything right, the farming sector is actually used as a monetary tool by the government to control inflation and consumer price inflation. So they're actually a monetary tool. That's hindering the growth of farmers. Why should they not profit? I mean, price of crude goes to 110. There are companies who are making, windfalls. Farmer cannot do that. The moment someone does it, you can't hoard, you can't stock commodity. So there are so many regulations in place. We have GST to make it a one India market. The sad part is that today a person operating, like we operate in multiple markets in our state, a person working in one state cannot store his goods in another state because he doesn't have the license. You have a GST, you can supply anywhere, but from one district to another district, you cannot store it because you do not have the license. That's progress. That is the policy transparency. That is the clarity of thought of our leaders, where at macro level, it all sounds good. If you look at the micros, there is so much that needs to be done for the agri sector. And it is not just about the finance. It is about the entire environment, the policy to make it conducive so that an entrepreneur can go in and work out. Today, I work in the agri field, but I'm working with almost 7 to 8 government departments. There are multiple inspections, there are multiple reporting, there are multiple returns we filed. There's so much of wastage of human manpower. And to top it all, while we have an electronic system, we are in an age of technology. The inspector of the food inspector or the fertilizer inspector from the Department of Agriculture, or whoever it is, he wants to come and see the book in which an entry has been made, which was issued by him for 5,000 rupees. We are a GST compliant company. We file our returns in GST. We buy from GST compliant companies. And our real vision is to see that farming for a farmer, with the age of automation and with the way technology is progressing, should become like ordering food on an application. So that means he can just come to us and order what he wants to be grown, the kind of package he wants, and the entire farming should be done for him, right from inputs, fertilizers, chemicals. So he gets entire package. He knows his costing. He knows what's there. He gets analytics, imaging technology, and we've been working on quite a few technologies over the last 3-4 years, including drones, image analytics, etc. So where he's able to get an end-to-end package, which not just ensures products, operations, but also the actionable information that's required to make sure that the entire produce is grown properly, covered by a bankable insurance, which is monetized in, let's say, 15 days to a month's time, to be able to add value to the crop and to be able to sell and supply the best product from the fields to the consumer. So that's what is our ultimate game and aim. And I hope that we succeed, and I get another opportunity to really demonstrate that to all of you sometime in the near future. Thank you so much.